Competitive sports and extracurricular activities and programs for kids are popular in schools and homes. Parents invest a lot of time and money in getting their kids to practice in games or performance events. But is there a danger to all of this that can damage or destroy family relationships? Find out in just a moment.
Welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge, a movement to awaken and inspire fathers everywhere to take great pride in their role and to challenge society to understand how important fathers are to the stability and culture of their family's environment. Now, here's your host, Jonathan Guerrero.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My guest is National Chess Master and owner of Premier Chess, who manages programs for students of all ages and levels, Evan Rabin. Evan, thank you so much for being on the Fatherhood Challenge.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's my pleasure.
Evan, I'm curious, what is your favorite dad joke?
Why didn't the chicken cross the road?
Oh, I know. I've never heard this one before. What was the answer?
Because he was chicken.
I love that one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It is. Well, Evan, let's start with your story behind how you became a national chess master and now you're running student programs. How did this happen?
It's a very good question. So I first started playing chess when I was very young. I was 7 years old. My brother and my dad taught me how to move the pieces, and I quickly started playing at the program at my school, the Churchill School, and I pretty much started playing very actively. Since then, I actually played the nationals 2 months after I learned how to move the pieces, basically, and just kept going with it. When I was 20, I made national master, and when I was 12, I actually started teaching chess off and on, and 7 years ago now, in 2017, I started Premier Chess, and now we have 65 coaches. We run programs in 80 schools, a bunch of companies like Google and Citigroup, and we also do a lot of camps, tournaments, private lessons, etc., all over the country.
That's amazing. What was your goal behind starting Premier Chess?
Pretty much the biggest thing was to follow my passion. Before that, I did enterprise sales at Oracle and Rapid7. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I made pretty good money doing it. But at the end of the day, I didn't relate to CIOs that much. And I felt kind of bad in a way almost that I would just, I wouldn't say I felt bad, but it just felt like I was, faking it a little bit almost, where, I was selling something that I didn't really know about. To this day, I don't really know exactly what an engineered system is. But that's what I was selling at the time. And basically I said, why don't I sell my true passion of chess? So that's what I'm doing. And, it's just a lot more relatable. And, I'm an expert in the field. So it's great to do what I love and sell what I love.
Is it ever more than just being about chess? Is there something else besides the game that you are offering?
Absolutely. So when we're teaching chess, we're also teaching business and life lessons through the game. So very often, actually, I'll meet people networking and they'll say, hey, great to meet you. We'll definitely keep you in mind when, I hear of chess players looking for, a coach. But I always say that our target market is actually not chess players. For the most part, people who are more serious about chess, they actually have the coaching that they need or want. But really, we're more interested actually in talking to schools and companies, other organizations, that want to learn things like critical thinking, healthy competition. At the law firm, we teach about judgment training. On the one hand,
wow,
law in and out, basically. But when you're on trial or a deadline, you need to take everything and put it into basically a few minutes of work sometimes. And it's the same thing in chess, of course. I tell students all the time, even if it's an opening or a middle game, or an end game that you've looked at a billion times in theory, you still need to make sure you're spending time at the board and making sure that you're, doing things correctly. So sometimes I'll teach an opening, for instance, and then I'll say, oh, let's review it. But then I'll purposely make a slightly different move, sort of secretly, and they'll just kind of blindly play the move I taught. Right? And I say, but didn't you realize that I actually did something a little different? And they're like, oh no, because they were just so rushing to play, exactly what I taught them. When I was really just testing to see, like, oh, are you actually going to, think on your feet and realize that I did something slightly different, or are you just going to,
Wow.
go through the motions?
So critical thinking skills are a huge part of what you're teaching. It's beyond just the game itself, but you're teaching kids and maybe even adults to actually think for themselves in life.
Absolutely.
What are the benefits of dads getting their kids involved in competitive sports or the arts?
The biggest thing is just being able to get yourself out there, get yourself exposed. It's also, of course, very important for, college and career. I've been able to build such a great community in chess that has helped not just in my business, but also, before, when I was in college, for instance, one of my, good friends, Kola Adeyemi, helped like tutor me finance and whatnot, and also helped me in my, career search quite a bit. And, many other, chess friends have, helped. And now I'm, giving back all the time, through other people and paying it forward. So yeah, it's community, but then it's also just self growth, and that's why I do actually tell students all the time that if it's chess, stick to chess. If it's basketball, fine, stick to basketball. Develop one or two extracurriculars that you're like really into, and be able to grow with those. I think people do sometimes try to get into too many different things actually, and it kind of hurts them overall.
I see this all the time where they spread their kids too thin. The kids are involved in programs outside of school. They're involved in sometimes more than one athletic program within school. They have their academics to be concerned about, and they don't do very well. They are actually some of the slowest performing students because they can't really concentrate and do anything well. And their parents are just, they have their kids way too busy for their age that they really can't even be a kid.
They can't be a kid, but then also they don't practice, right? I've actually, for instance, I'm in a lot of parent groups on Facebook all over the country. And relatively often, actually, I'll see someone say, oh, do you know any piano teachers that, have their own instruments? As if they don't want to buy it, right? And I'm right away thinking like, wait a minute, that's ridiculous. How are they going to learn piano or any other instrument if they don't have an instrument at home? And they can't practice throughout the week. And in a similar vein, right? I always tell students, right, even if, they take private lessons with us or they're in a school program with us once or twice a week, right? Make sure that our next lesson is not the next time that you're playing or learning chess, right? It needs to be
yes,
pretty consistent, throughout the week.
Absolutely. I love this. The other thing that makes me wonder sometimes if the parents have these kids so busy to compensate for something else, maybe they really are uncomfortable just spending that one-on-one time bonding with their own children. And so they're using something else to keep them from actually having to build that connection in a meaningful way.
Absolutely.
What are the advantages to putting your kids in either athletics or in art? So is there an advantage to your kid being in the arts versus being in athletics or one or the other, or is there no advantage at all?
Honestly, really, I think just depends on the kid. If they're more athletic, all the power to them. I have a 9-month-old daughter now, so we're not, yet thinking about extracurriculars too much, of course, but one thing I definitely plan on is getting her exposed to everything, and then wherever she wants to go with them, that's where she wants to go. So if it's more of a athletic route, playing volleyball, basketball, whatever it is, great. If it's not, no. I was actually just listening on a different dad podcast the other day that one of the biggest things that you should actually do is early on give them decision making abilities.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
not like when they go to college, that's the first time they're like, wow, what do I major in, etc. They should be trying to figure out many different choices, from simple things like what's for dinner tonight, have them have a say in it.
I had a fascinating guest on, and actually two guests that talked on this topic of what you can do with things you can do with a baby. And it turns out that intellectual development or brain development and athletics, so to speak, in a newborn or a baby are very, very much linked together. In other words, developing core strength and developing eye coordination, eye movement, just brain development, they're linked together through play, through actual physical play with your baby. Um, so, what are your thoughts on that? And in your own experience, you're a new dad. Have you ever seen play really help with your child's development?
Absolutely. Actually, in the beginning, my grandmother actually was yelling at us for not, having her have enough toys. My grandmother, thank God, is 94 and very healthy and very good, but she also very much will always, say her opinion loudly, which I'm actually, incredibly grateful for, of
Mm-hmm.
course. So, I mean, we weren't, spending enough energy, making sure that, she had toys and whatnot. And I really do think that it's incredibly important to constantly, um, get her developing, and it's under it's under your control, of course.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. It's beyond just school programs later in life. This development starts very, very early, even from when they are a baby. And this isn't something you want to just hand off to somebody else as a parent. This is something you're going to want to roll up your sleeves and get involved with early, because that's how you begin and maintain that bonding process that can really help you later on down the road when they become a teenager. And let's shift back to chess a little bit. What are kids learning from your chess program besides the game, and how does that give them a personal advantage in life?
So there's several factors, of course. So making sure that you're looking ahead, you're realizing that time is valuable, and also just making you think about different options. So I myself, by the way, actually had a learning disability growing up. I went to a school called Churchill in New York, when uh, when I was, very young. Actually, if I was upset, and unfortunately, I was likely to, you know, yell at another kid or hit another kid, even, in some cases. But I really do think chess, actually helped me in some ways, and made made me realize that there are different options, out there. And I could tell the teacher, I could ignore it, I could, tell another student that something was, disturbing me, and there were a lot of other options out there. And that's why I do tell students, every time you make a move, make sure you're at least considering two or three alternatives. Right? You should never, to typically make like the first move that you see necessarily. Right? You can make that move eventually, but if you are, make sure you're at least, yeah, considering some alternatives.
Now let's look at the flip side of the topic. What are some negative effects of competitive, athletic, or arts programs? In what ways can it be harmful to or damaging family relationships or even health?
Anything could definitely, if it's not in moderation, be actually harmful. I personally, see a lot of chess parents that could be a little bit too crazy about their kids and results. One thing I always actually talk about is how, like, when we run our tournaments, the kids relatively easy to deal with. The parents, most of them are absolutely great, but some of them, could be a little bit difficult. They don't leave the room when we tell them to, leave the room, because they're, somewhat helicopter parents. In one case, one of the top grandmasters in the country, I won't mention his name, but in the past, when we were both in high school, his dad would take him to tournaments, and literally, in some cases, I heard like the dad like publicly yell at him, that he would lose a game, this and that, and it wasn't good for him at all, and it obviously, yeah, did not, go over well. I think maybe even got to a point where he was welcome at the club and not his like father, and yeah, just was like, pretty crazy at the time. So I think the short of it is that yes, you do want to get a little bit involved with your kids, but you should step to the side a little bit as well. I also have seen in many cases, a kid not really wanting to, listen to the teacher much, because the parent is right there, and the parent, and I've in a couple of cases, like we did actually a snow day virtual camp a couple of weeks ago, and there was one younger girl, who was like 5, signed up for the camp, and she was a little upset, and the mom was like kind of there, like, supporting her, and I actually privately messaged her in the chat saying, like, with all due respect, honestly, you should, go do your thing, work for the day, whatever. And she's like, oh, I don't really know. She maybe I should get a refund because, like, my kid is young. Most of the other kids are older, right? And I said, just trust me, just literally leave for 5 minutes and see what happens. And then throughout the day, the girl was more than fine. Loved it. So all it was, she was just hand holding a little bit too much.
I love the story that you brought out about the dad yelling, because I see so many times where parents will live their own lives, either their successes or they will live their failures vicariously through their kids. Instead of their kids letting their kids have their own experience, they burden their kids and they put their own experiences or missed experiences and put that burden on their kids. And they may not even be aware that they're doing it, but it's really damaging. And that's one area where I see that can be really damaging to that relationship, putting undue, unnecessary pressure on a child.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's crucial, to think about.
Do you ever see those conflicts and goals between a student and a parent or a dad?
I haven't so much. I would say that, tournaments is something we, strongly encourage, of course, to, all students. Actually, I was actually at a recital a couple of years ago. One of my good friends, Mike Papapavlou, owns a company, Guitar Guy Guru. They do piano and guitar lessons and other instruments as well. And actually, a couple of years ago, he partnered with this guy, Scott something or other. And one thing Scott actually said that I really actually appreciated was you guys are going to learn more in this recital than you have in the last 7 months.
Oh, wow.
Learning, uh, and I really do think that that made a lot of sense. I think what's the point of learning an instrument for 6 months if you're not going to like perform at all? And it's definitely similar in chess and tournaments, right? You could take lessons every week for a long time, but you're not really going to get better until you're like starting to play some tournaments here and there.
It's about conquering a fear that they otherwise would not have had the courage to conquer if they really didn't have that structure and those lessons to really hold them accountable. It's a lot of fun to really teach different tricks and tips to help them overcome their anxiety and help them to focus. So in chess, are there ever strategies that you teach that really help to hone in and develop focus and concentration?
Yeah, so definitely a fair amount. I mean, obviously that is huge, and I always tell students that you do need to study a lot of chess, of course, if you want to get better. But you also have to learn how to focus at the board, which honestly, even myself, compared to other masters in particular, I do struggle with focusing. I just was. I'm actually reading now a book about the Kasparov Karpov match, and in 1985, and Kasparov talked a couple times about how he in Karpov would spend 30, 40 minutes on one move,
Oh,
which
wow.
is probably like in some cases a little bit too much, but it just does go to show you that focus is very, very, very key, and a lot of players, including myself, will fall into the trap of, wow, this move is so obvious, and you make it instantly, and right after you play it, you're like, wow, I should have considered these two things, or you know what, even worse, I missed this very easy win for him that I easily should have seen, but I didn't. And the only reason you missed it is you moved too quickly. And very often, too, students will miss simple tactics, which are, for those that don't know, basically a small series of moves to basically usually win material or in some cases checkmate. And they'll miss it simply because they weren't looking for it. So yesterday I was actually looking at a game with the student. It was a very short game actually from Larry Christensen, who's the several-time U.S. champion. We used to actually play together in the Boston team of the U.S. Chess League, and he actually beat Karpov, who was currently world champion, in 13 moves, and Karpov missed something relatively I mean, not even relatively, very simple. But it simply was because, he wasn't looking for, tactics. And I teach that game all the time now to students, just to show that, even like elite world champion, if he's putting his guard down and not focusing, then, he could lose a game in 13 moves, which is like almost unheard of.
Wow. This next question is a question that has taken a lot of discipline for me not to ask this question in the very beginning, because I honestly don't know the answer to this question and it's been burning on my mind. So I've saved it for last. You've talked about a connection between chess and understanding God. And I'm really curious to know what that connection is.
So there's definitely, I think, several different answers to this question. I've actually had several rabbis on my own podcast. Actually, just last night, we published an episode with two rabbis who are actually both rabbis, obviously, but also physics experts. They actually have their own podcast, Physics to God.
Oh, wow.
Super, super interesting. The king is the only piece in chess that does not get captured. So a lot of beginners, by the way, make actually a very common mistake that you win a game by capturing your opponent's king. But no, that doesn't happen in chess. So, the king is not being captured, and, God is always there, wherever you are. I'm a big believer in that. And, sometimes we don't know the answer of why, God does and wants certain things, but, there's always a reason for that. And I am a big believer of that.
Very, very powerful. Evan, how can dads listening connect with you or learn more about your chess programs?
Yeah, thank you so much. For one, I'm really grateful for this appearance. I do also want to give a quick shout out to our mutual friend, Rena, of the Better Call Daddy show, for introducing us. She's an absolute great connector. Thank you so much, to her as well. But yeah, if anyone does want to reach out, learn more about chess, we do work with a lot of schools, companies, individuals. Whether or not you're looking to, go and pay for lessons, we definitely love to be a resource. I'm also a networker and connector and many other things as well. You could definitely email me at evan@premierchess.com. Go to our website, premierchess.com. And would love to be in touch.
And just to make things easier, if you go to thefatherhoodchallenge.com, that's thefatherhoodchallenge.com. If you go to this episode, look right below the episode description. I will have all of the links that Evan just mentioned posted there for your convenience as well. Evan, as we close, what is your challenge to dads listening now?
Just being able to kind of live in the moment, be present. I now have, as I said before, a 9-month-old daughter, Maya. And frankly, in the last 9 months, I've been somewhat behind on my business and whatnot. And, I've told that to my wife a couple times and, some other people as well. And I've at times actually, somewhat regretted that, maybe we didn't have like a babysitter earlier. We actually got one a couple of weeks ago, but, at the end of the day, I have no regrets at all. I guess I am somewhat flexible as an entrepreneur. And I've been able to, kind of juggle taking care of the baby and running the business. But I just want to say that look, don't have any regrets. And along with that, it's very easy to make mistakes. Of course, especially your first time, parenting. Still are all the time, obviously. And just roll with the punches. It's okay. Every parent makes mistakes.
That's absolutely true. Well, Evan, I have learned so much from you, so I definitely know dads listening have as well. Thank you so much for being on the Fatherhood Challenge. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. My sincere pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fatherhood Challenge. If you would like to contact us, listen to other episodes, find any resource mentioned in this program, or find out more information about the Fatherhood Challenge, please visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.
I'd like to pause and thank our proud sponsor of the Fatherhood Challenge, Zencastr. If you've thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcast production platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. But the reason I personally use and trust them with the production of this syndicated radio program is their professional broadcast quality sound. There is no better time than now to start your podcast using Zencastr for all your needs. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code FATHERHOOD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.